Let's talk for a minute about what a business policy is and the different components to a business policy. Now, business policy is a common term. Carriers vary terms, a little differently from time to time, but a business policy typically comprises of two components: the structural coverage that the association is responsible for having, and also the liability coverage. So we're going to talk a little bit about those two components, but the first thing that you need to understand as an association is what you're responsible for covering in terms of structural coverage. So the first thing to look at is your declarations. In your declarations, your governing documents, usually there's an entire section on insurance which is going to outline what you're responsible for having. The second component is if you're under MCIOA, the Minnesota Common Interest Ownership Act. If you fall under that umbrella, then you also have insurance requirements that you need to come to, which essentially, to summarize, is a guaranteed value of the replacement of the buildings of the association. More on that in other videos. But let's go to the business policy, the business package. The first component is the structural coverage. So again, what the association is responsible for. This varies wildly from a single family association that might have coverage of just maybe a monument, maybe light poles, maybe they have an auxiliary building, a pool, those types of things, but not the homes. A townhome would be another common type of association where you're really going to have coverage of the buildings. And then certainly condos. Condos, you're going to have a very, very detailed and all-encompassing type of a policy to cover the replacement of that building. So those are the types of associations. And then you break it down into what type of coverage. And there's 4 coverages which are going to be covered in very great detail in another video. But there's bare walls, original specs, modified specs, or what's most common, certainly for condos, usually for townhomes, would be all in, where everything is covered. You take a building, you tip it upside down, whatever doesn't fall out is covered under all in, right? So those are the structural types of policies that are a part of your business policy. So again, the last part of the business policy is the liability, the general liability. This covers the association against lawsuits, whether that is from a guest that might slip and fall, maybe that's from a toddler that gets hurt on a playground that the association is responsible for. This covers liability for lawsuits against the association. One misnomer about that, which we'll cover again in a later video, is typically the general liability does not cover homeowners suing the association, right? It covers guests. It covers people just walking through the association, maybe the vendor that's servicing the association. A judge would oftentimes say a homeowner can't sue themselves, right? They're a member of the association, therefore they can't sue themselves. So there's other coverages for that. So your liability covers guests, people going through the association. So those are the two components that make up your business policy: your structural coverage and your liability. Lots more videos on insurance at sharpermanagement.com. Check it out. Hopefully you found this helpful.